Hey there! In this channel, I animated a lot of stop-motion fight scenes with puppets or action figures. Sometimes I animate hand-to-hand combat, other times with chains, with swords, sometimes swords with armor, and in this video, I'm making my own mini scale props for future fight scenes. To do that, I'm going to use and combining these materials here to shape and sculpt them by hand. And stick till the end of the video to see the biggest and most complex accessory or prop that I ever made, or at least try to. Alright, I've used paper to make stuff before, and I know the limitation but also the flexibility of using paper. And on top of that, I've also been experimenting and using 3D pen with PLA as the printing material. But there's also one other material that I've always been curious and excited about, but admittedly also a bit intimidated with. And that material is clay, specifically polymer clay. The idea of polymer clay is rather simple. You make a shape with the clay, you toss it in the oven with the right temperature on the instruction packaging and wait a while, and you're basically done. However, for a beginner, I'm both excited and intimidated by the details. I mean, as a beginner, do I need to prepare anything for the clay before starting to work on them? What should I avoid? Do I need to work with wet or dry hands? What should the oven settings be? Will the clay shrink after baking? And if so, by how much? And many more questions just like that. I don't know much about polymer clay, but I do know that it can be used for detailing on the surface of an sculpted object. But making a long and narrow object like a sword, it's gonna be a hard time. So I'm going to use the trusty old paper frame that I've used in my paper katana video to give it a stronger frame for now. And yes, that is a shameless plug, and go watch it if you haven't yet. So let's start with a sword. And let's go with something that can be considered iconic, just like the katana. And since katana is an Eastern sword, why not I go with a Western sword this time? The sword I have in mind this time is the Zweihandler, a 16th century German sword that looks fearsome and a symbol of power. For the sake of testing out materials and experiment, we're just going to do a rough estimate 1/12 scale rather than a complete accuracy here. A Zweihandler is quite a lengthy sword, and unlike many swords out there, it has this hook blades. I think they're also called paring spikes. Let me know down in the comments if you know any other names for it. So I added in some hooks or spikes in with glue to support the clay during layering. After the frame is done, it's time to apply a thin layer of polymer clay. The material seems to stick on it rather well, and the thick consistency means that there's no mess when working with this material. Now, I've tried my best to keep the clay on the sides of the blade both symmetrical and straight, but I can feel the bumps and irregularity. But I do plan to sand it down afterwards, removing and smoothing it later on after baking. After the main body of the blade is done, it's time for the handguard. Again, starting with a paper frame, I'm going to poke a hole so that the tang of the sword can fit into it. I'm not going to add too much decorative details here, just a rough shape to see and feel if the clay sits right after baking. Let's hope that it goes well. Lastly, the hilt. Because puppets will eventually be the one holding this for future videos, I wanted to have a general fit for most, if not all, 1/12 scale hands to fit. To do this, I'm going to make it just slightly on the thicker side and then sand it down for the right fit. Well, as perfect as I can get it anyway. Off to the oven it goes. And after baking, of course, it is required to sand it to make it look much better, but for now, this is the finished piece. With the sword done, let's make something else. Since we have a sword, why not make a shield? It's not meant to pair with the Zweihandler, but I think it could be interesting. So, I drew a rough frame of swords to contain the general shape. Can you see it? If you can't, well, guess what? So can I. To solve this and the symmetrical issue, I fold the paper at the frame center and drew a one-side shape so I can trace it onto the next side, completing the shape of the overall shield frame. I thought about using similar method as the sword with paper, but given the limitations of paper, I decided to use a PLA filament with the 3D pen instead, as it has a stronger and perfect to give a hard frame for the clay to stick on. Even though I'm not the best at drawing the filament with this tool, I'll just have to draw my best. Plus, PLA as a material melts at 190 degrees Celsius and the clay is 130 degrees Celsius. So even though PLA does soften just before reaching its melting point, it should hold up well enough, especially when it's baking in the oven. I'm pretty happy with the frame at this point. And with that, it's time to layer it with polymer clay, giving its final shape and detailing. Every shield has an emblem or something that represents the wielder. And I want to make a simple but something truly unique. So with much deliberation and brainstorming, I decided on this. What is better than a simple smile? While the shield protects its user from physical damage on the back, the smile up front confuses whoever is in front. While it won't kill them with kindness, it'll provide enough of a window to strike on the opponent while they are distracted by the gentle smile of the front side shield. And once the shield is finished, it's time for the next one. I was thinking a tool that I rarely animate with and something that deals a blunt force trauma, the hammer. Immediately I thought of Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. Mjolnir? Mjolnir?
Mjolnir.
Making the MCU's versions is probably too easy. What if we did this and make this like that? Yeah. Now, it's no longer your traditional MCU's Mjolnir, but instead a great hammer. Also, it seems I'm going to run out of polymer clay as of making this if I do make a bulk of the hammer with clay. And I haven't exactly tried PLA filament on paper. What if... Yeah. Starting off the hammer with previous approach, I made these frames to support the head of the hammer. Then I printed out this template with the 3D pen for the hammer head and stick it to several layers of used paper. It's not made to be strong yet, but it'll provide walls to give the distinct shape of a proper great hammer. For the handle, I'm tempted to use the core with PLA filament, simply because it's much stronger than paper despite the spaghetti texture. I did thought about making the whole handle with PLA, but fitting and smoothing it out for a 1/12 scale hand grip will be more challenging and, more importantly, time-consuming. Besides, using paper this way allows me to fit it with the small hands in real time, solving both the fitting issue as well as the texture of the handle. Inside the head of the hammer is where the bulk of the mess is. I can't show you well the insides of it, but it is where all the support frames and the rest of the long handle sits. It's designed this way so it's not too heavy for the puppets to lift up, throwing off its balance during animating, while also strong enough to hold the shape of the great hammer. To give it additional balance, I'm adding a small pommel or knob at the end of the handle to hopefully give it a better balance. It's not perfect, but it'll do. This great hammer reminds me of the Monster Hunter games, where the weapons are larger than life to fight back against large monsters. And fans of the series might know where I'm heading with this. Since the shield has already been made, let's make one that pairs well with the shield. The gun lance. This weapon in the Monster Hunter games are one of the most complex tools in the games. It's part spear and part gun. It has moving parts, so making this will be interesting. With such complex weapon, I want to make it right by printing out a rough measurement down to its 1/12 scale. I could go with a fixed revolver, of course, but to make it interesting, I'm going to make it so that it's able to revolve around. Now, I could go about this in many ways, like making it entirely out of paper or PLA filament. Of course, each material has pros and cons of their own, such as detailing and time to polish, etc., etc., especially in my use case, which is to eventually animate with it. With that in mind, I decided to make the main body with PLA filament using the 3D pen. The barrel and the main blade of the lens will be made entirely with paper, as I'll only need to sand it just a little bit to give a look that is sharpened. Additionally, paper already has a consistent finished look and makes it look more uniform. And for detailing, I'll be using the remainder of my polymer clay. Lastly, the handle will be made similarly to the Great Hammer's handle. It seems to work just fine there, so I'll be sticking with that approach. So let's get into making it. I've also added this detail as I was making it. In the Monster Hunter games, you reload the gun lens by winding the part where the blade and the barrel sits, and I thought this was a cool detail. And since the base design allows for it, I'm going to implement this as it doesn't look too difficult. And there it is, the gun lens. This thing, even in its 1/12 scale form, is massive. This is probably, no, is the largest accessories I've made so far. But what do you think? I suppose this can be put into a mini scale armory prop for animating purposes. But that aside, I know it has been a while since my last upload. And honestly, it's because of two large projects that I'm still in the middle of, as well as IRL stuff. But if the gun lens is the largest mini scale prop that I've ever made so far, well, one of the projects is on the topic of large in terms of mini scale. It's nothing too grand, but I'll leave you at the teaser at the end shortly. But for now, if you like the video, you know where the like button is. And if you're newer on the channel, hello there. And if you're looking to support me, the Patreon link is down in the description. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching. And as promised, I'll leave you with this small clip from the project that's still in the works. Bye bye.
I have awoken.